Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody joining us. Welcome to Bridges Beyond Bars Live, Break the Cycle, Rewrite the Narrative. Tonight's conversation is called From Survival to Strategy. So we're talking about the behaviors folks carry home from prison and the real work it takes to shift and grow.
We're going to dive deep tonight. Survival inside requires a whole set of coping strategies, ones that don't always serve us after release. Jump in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, and please share this out, tag your people, help us get this message to someone who needs it. I'm Sarah, and I co-lead Bridges Beyond Bars. My husband's incarceration changed everything for me. It actually opened my eyes to what people really go through on both sides of the walls. Now I walk with families and I show up for this fight every day.
And I am Kirsten, and I lead Bridges Beyond Bars. Someone I love being incarcerated here in Australia is what pushed me into this work. It shaped my path into studying criminology, forensic psychology, and building years of advocacy in this space. I'm here because I believe that healing and justice can go hand in hand.
All right, let's bring up our guests. These folks are going to keep it real tonight.
So first off, we are going to welcome up Solomon. Welcome in, Solomon. If you can introduce yourself.
Peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Ross Solomon Tafar Rogers, go by Solomon, and I'm a survivor of incarceration. I spent 18 years of incarceration inside Virginia's Department of Corrections Center, and of the 18 years of incarceration, I spent 10 of those in solitary confinement. I was incarcerated when I was 18 years old. I was charged with possession with intent to distribute $700 of crack cocaine, and even though I was a first-time adult offender, I was given a 20-year prison sentence without the possibility of parole and a $100,000 fine. While I was in prison, I adopted the Rastafarian faith, religious belief, which forbids us for cutting our hair. And I grew my dreads. And in 1999, while I was incarcerated, they came out with a grooming policy. I refused to comply with the grooming policy, and I was thrown in solitary confinement for 10 years. It was such a big case about me being a nonviolent offender and being in segregation for so long. It garnered a lot of media attention, so the governor got involved and decided, okay, I'm gonna get these guys out of solitary confinement. What they did was send me to a super maximum security level prison. I was there maybe like a year or something. I was brutally attacked by a guy that had mental health concerns and issues, and I suffered a major stroke, which left me permanently disabled. So in order for me to get treatment, the prison staff said, "Well, you have to cut your hair, and then we'll transfer you to a lower level security level and get you therapy." So I had, after being in solitary confinement for over 10 years, I cut my hair so I can get transferred to get treatment, which it has me walking, and at least I walk, but it left me with a pronounced limp. The guy who attacked me actually came home from prison, was released from prison, got in a shootout with the police, and was killed after killing four other individuals. So once I've been home, got home from prison. While in solitary confinement, somebody had told me something about FAFSA. You can apply for college, and I was just messing around, and I applied for it. They said you're granted it. So when I came home from prison, I immediately enrolled in a college called Tidewater Community College in Norfolk, Virginia. I started attending there, and for then on, I just been going forward, and I've been continuing my education. I graduated, got my bachelor's, then I got my master's in social work. I'm currently a licensed clinical social worker. I live in North Carolina, and I'm practicing for a private practice, and I work for a nonprofit organization helping homeless veterans find housing. So that's kind of what my story is.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank
Thank
What
you
a
you.
for having me.
story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we've got Armand. I hope I pronounced that right with us.
Hang
Thanks
on.
for being
I don't
here.
think I can't see him in here. So we're going to skip over to Jeremy and
Okay.
then we will come back to Ahmad and see if he gets back in. So let me bring up Jeremy. Welcome back. Oh, you're muted.
It's okay.
It's a pleasure to be back. How's everybody doing? My name is Jeremy Johnson. I was also incarcerated in the Virginia Department of Corrections for 21 years and 11 months, where I changed my life and got involved in mental health and substance use. Um, Basically, pushed forward for peer services in the Department of Corrections while I was in there. Was successful with that. I came home, got into mental health and substance um, advocacy. I will talk further in my trials and tribulations on that as we go with this live. But right now, actually, peer supervisor at a mental health agency. I'm also integrated forensic peer trainer, where I train other individuals that are of incarceration on how to peer individuals that have came out or within the judicial system. So that's very important to me, and that's one of my accomplishments since I've been home. So I'll leave it there, and we'll talk a little more as we go. Thank you,
Perfect.
Pat.
Thank you for coming
Thank
back and
you.
joining us.
Yes.
And then we want to bring up Ahmad. Welcome back, Ahmad.
Hey, how's everybody
Hello.
doing?
Peace.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Amar Smith, from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Um, for those who don't know, I served time for first degree murder, as well as home invasion and several other charges. I was sentenced to 30 years. I served 25 on the 30 before making parole. Um, 46 years old. I'm a father of four. I'm a grandfather to four. Um, man, uh, I'm a marine electrician, certified. I'm also a certified residential electrician, um, CDL holder, uh, licensed salesperson. Um, endless trades. Some of which I used to actually gain employment once I got out. Um, I tried to mentor as much as I can. And with that mentorship, it may not be far as with a crowd or a group of people, but um, whenever I'm in conversation with younger people who I see going down the path that I went down, I try to give them um, tools that I feel they could use that I felt weren't given to me when I was their age, and hopefully they receive it. I'm a content creator. Uh, I don't even like to use content creator because I just, however I'm feeling at the time, that's what I make. So sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's inspirational, sometimes it's over the top. But yeah, and I use social media as well to tell a story of what I feel could possibly happen if you aren't taking control of your life. If you're in the streets and you're not doing what you can to take control of your life, then someone else will. And that's what happened to me. So yeah, I'll speak on it more as we go on. So yeah.
Thank
Perfect.
you. Thank you for
Yeah.
Thank
sharing.
you for joining us.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
It's so
ma'am.
nice to have
It's
different
good.
people from different backgrounds,
Yes,
and I
yes.
think it's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
So before we get into our main discussion, we want to set the foundation. There's a lot of misunderstanding around how behaviors are formed, especially inside carceral settings. So Kirsten's going to walk us through a short presentation on how the brain adapts, how behavior is learned, and what change actually requires.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to bring up this little slideshow. It is just loading. So basically, just for those of you who don't know me, my background is predominantly starting from academic and obviously looking at psychology, the brain, how the brain learns behaviors, how we adapt our behaviors based on our environment, and then also how that changes and how we can be aware of our own biological and psychological processes. So let me bring this up. So I'm going to leave us all on here because I think it's really important. Some of you have seen this already, some of you haven't. So I really just want to get this started, and this isn't just like a me talking. This is an opportunity for us all to, comment where we want to, where we need to, or ask questions. So the first slide here is talking about how we learn behavior. I'm going to highlight. I can't read that because my eyes are so bad. So I'm going to bring up my little copy of it. I think you guys can see it better than I can. Sarah, can you see it?
Slightly.
Your
It's
eyes
really, I
are
mean,
worse than
I'm on a
mine.
laptop. I'm on a
Your eyes are
laptop.
worse than mine. Okay, so I want to start here. Your brain, right? Your brain is not the enemy. So it learned how to protect you based on the world it saw. So we have to really remember that the brain is not designed to make us happy. The brain is not designed to regulate our emotions. The brain is designed to keep us alive. If you grew up in chaos around violence or have been in institutions like prison, you've probably picked up habits that made sense in that setting. Maybe it was keeping quiet or even being the loudest one in the room or always watching your back. The brain doesn't care if those reactions and behaviors are healthy. It cares if it works. So every time you react a certain way and it keeps you safe, that path in your brain gets stronger. Okay, so it reinforces that behavior is keeping your body and your brain and your organs safe. Now, that's not weakness, that's your brain adapting to your environment. If we go to the next slide. So this one's about shortcuts and triggers. So our brains are super busy. They're the big information centers and they take shortcuts. If something feels like danger, if it smells like danger, sounds like it, looks familiar, your brain doesn't slow down to ask the questions to make sure that it is. It just reacts. So that might mean snapping at someone, going numb, or shutting down. A lot of us have learned to read the room fast, read people fast, and make choices fast. And that's what survival demanded. But when your surroundings change, like after incarceration or leaving a toxic environment, your brain doesn't instantly switch gears. It still runs the old program. And so you have to teach it something new. And that takes practice and time. The next slide is about our body, right? So when we talk about fight or flight, and I'm sure everybody in here has heard fight, flight, or freeze, we're talking about a physical thing. So the amygdala, which is your brain's alarm system, decides what's dangerous. Once that goes off, it completely takes over the thinking brain. That's why you can't just calm down when you're triggered. If someone says, calm down, just breathe, your brain won't let you. The amygdala won't let you. In high stress places like prison, the streets, systems where you have no control, your brain gets used to being in that alert state all the time. You don't sleep right, you overreact, and you shut down or explode. And when you leave that place, your body might still act like it's there. It's not a moral failure, but it's your nervous system trying to keep you alive. The next one is about chemicals and conditioning. So the chemicals behind all this. So dopamine gives you that feel-good hit. So even if something's risky or toxic, your brain is going to release dopamine the minute that you get yourself out of that situation. So if you run off or avoid a risky situation or a stressful situation, the brain goes, well done, and it releases that good hormone called dopamine. It makes you feel great. So it's rewarding you because you escaped a threat. Even if the threat, like we talked about previously, it wasn't really a threat. It was just a perceived threat. Then cortisol gets released when you're stressed. If there's too much cortisol, it messes with your memory, your sleep, and your ability to relax. Oxytocin as well is that connection hormone. So it builds trust between us and others. But if you've been hurt or betrayed over and over, you're in an oxytocin deficit. So it's harder to get and it's harder to keep stable. In systems like prison, trust is a liability. You have to learn to stay guarded. So that's behavioral conditioning. You act a certain way because the system taught you that it was safer to do so. The problem is those same reactions can backfire in the outside world or in relationships. So this last slide, and we'll go straight into our conversation after this, is about change. So this is the part that people don't always tell you. The brain can change. It's called neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity means that your brain is always updating, but it's not instant. You need a safe environment, consistent repetition and support. So if someone like Ahmad did 25 years in prison, he's had 25 years of the brain making connections between certain triggers and certain behaviors. So that neural pathway has gone, okay, I've got 25 years of strength behind me. We can't expect Ahmad to come home and 5 days later that pathway to be broken.
Right.
So it's consistent and it's support. It says there, studies say 66 days of repetition build new pathways. That's consistent, right? So you're not going to have that reinforcement every single day. So it takes time. When we talk about habits, when we talk about new things, it takes time to rebuild those neural pathways. That might mean catching yourself in a reaction or pausing and trying something different. Initially, it'll feel like clumsy. You'll be like, oh man, what do I do? But the more that you do it, the more real it becomes and the quicker that the brain catches on. And those automatic processes that the amygdala and the nervous system go through, like before it was protecting you, the brain starts to learn and change what those automatic processes are. So the new reaction, the calmer one, starts to feel natural. So you're not stuck when you're coming home from a situation that's traumatic, like prison or war or the likes of something that's incredibly risky and stress-filled. It's a process. So I hope that kind of gave everybody a little bit of an understanding and a little bit more of an insight into what we're going to talk about tonight. Is there anything that the three of you wanted to add on that before we kind of get into the guts of what we're talking about tonight?
Yeah, I think what I want to add to that is just looking from the standpoint of when you mention coming home and they're taking so much time to actually readjust. I think it takes Others, it takes some people a lot longer than others because I'm still learning to adjust. And I think that's kind of it's hard for people to understand that because they look at it and say, "Hey, you've been home 2.5 years. Why aren't you adjusted yet?" I was gone 25 years. So, you know, just trying to relearn everything and readjust is it's a struggle. So yeah.
Definitely. Absolutely. Thank you. Solomon, Jeremy, was there anything that you did anything surprise you or anything that you wanted to add to that presentation?
I really enjoyed it and appreciated it because we need to see that side, before we go into giving examples and giving insights on survival and strategy. We need to see how that develops inside and how that works on with all of us, even people that was not of incarceration, how the brain works, how we react, how it gets conditioned, how it's programmed, and how we have an automatic reaction to things without even thinking. We just react, or we either freeze, fight, or fight. But as we condition ourselves to change those narratives or to be able to react different, that does take time, just like Ahmad just said. It's no limitation on a healing process. We have to look at that individuals that are coming home like ourselves have just went through a traumatic period in their life, and that's going to replay itself in so many different ways in us, and it's a new environment. So we are trying to adjust but also deal with what's already inside of us and what we have already been through. So when you're looking at anybody of a traumatic history or PTSD, or all these things fit even with incarceration. And a lot of people don't contribute to that, but there's a lot of mental illness that is developed, just like Solomon was speaking earlier, being in segregation for 10 straight years. That affects the way you think, that affects the way you react to things, and it definitely plays with the mind in different ways because you're confined for that long period of time, and that's not healthy. The same thing with incarceration. It's not a healing process or healing environment in that sense, because how we are taught to and learn to react and behave on that level is not, automatic or natural when we get out. So we have to readjust. But these ways have been of us for so long, and they have worked for so long, that it's hard for us to say, okay, I'm just going to start over, or I'm going to unlearn these behaviors to learn new behaviors. It's not instant like that. And a lot of it we can't control.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like Ahmad and Jeremy was saying, sometimes the time period for people to adjust, it takes longer. Like me, I'm still adjusting, to be honest. I find myself using terminology like I'm like, I'm about to jump in this rack, like the bed. So and it's hard, like, because I was isolated for so long, I still don't like to be around crowds of people. Really, it's still habits that I still carry with me. And that's like Jeremy was saying, it's a form of PTSD, so. And then I think a major thing, and I commend these brothers, man. They don't, I may not express it to them, but they inspire me to see the change they made. You know what I'm saying? And the period of time they've been home, they inspire me, they encourage me because we from the kind of like the same area, the same environment. So to see these brothers come home and do these positive things, the works that they're doing, it encourage and motivate me. So that really said that you can change the narrative. You don't have to be the stigma of you coming home and doing the same thing, nah. So people always look at me and say, "Man, I'm so proud of you," and I be saying, "Proud of what? This is what you're supposed to do." But we consider the abnormal as normal today. So
Yeah.
salute to y'all, for real.
That's what
And
it
Salute to
is,
yeah.
you
brother.
too.
Peace to you, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Caitlin, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to have a look at the comment from Caitlin. I won't read it out loud, but Caitlin, I think this is something that, one of the reasons that we wanted to do this live is for people that are expecting people home. And the guys will talk about, what they found worked in terms of changing those behaviors and being self-aware. And I think that part of the conversation will really help you in terms of receiving your husband home, because you can't wish it away. It's a process that everyone goes through, but I think taking advice from people that have walked through or been a little bit further in the process than your husband might be will be something you can take away from tonight's conversation. So I just wanted to address that as well. So if we can kind of get started into I guess, our first topic. So let's start with survival. That's what we've kind of been talking about here. And inside prison, people develop coping tools that make sense, emotional numbing, staying hyper alert, keeping your guard up. Those behaviors are protective in there, they serve a purpose, but they don't always translate to life out here. Solomon, I'd love for you to kick us off on that. If you can kind of let us know what survival looked for you like in prison.
Well, survival looked at me as like you got to have a sense of protecting yourself and don't be considered letting nobody. The first thing I was taught was don't let nobody get over on you, because everybody perceiving you as this way, you don't want nobody to take advantage of you. I remember the first time I got in an altercation, somebody stole something from me, and the guy said, "Yo, you have to straighten that." I said, "What you mean straighten?" They said, "Man, you got to fight them, or else you're gonna be considered weak. People gonna take advantage of you." So from day one, and I was at a place called Southampton. It was they called it Gladiator School. So you either fight or get ran over. So and from day one, I was taught, a survival mechanism. If you want to survive here, you gotta, don't take no trash from nobody. So even though that really wasn't truly my character, because I always been a laid back type of person, but I had to have an alternate personality just so I can survive. I had to take on that. So that was my first experience. Then it got to another levels where you got to get your weapon, knife, just to protect yourself. But it was like, you know, it's a survival. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Can you hear
You
me?
want to go? You want
Yeah.
to go, Ahmad? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, survival. Yeah, I went to Southampton as well. I went to Southampton receiving, and then years later to actual Southampton prison. And man, let me tell you, I don't even know where to begin. Far as some survival tactics. I won't even say tactics, just things that you had to do
Mhm.
that came with being in prison. Like the brother said, you couldn't you couldn't allow anybody just to steal from you. You had to straighten it, even if you didn't want to fight, even if you
Mhm.
looked at it like you can have it, I don't even care. That will place a target on you. No matter how big or small the target was, you became a target then as someone who was looked at as weak. So I think that aspect right there makes most people in prison automatically have a grudge. I got a grudge with you. I don't even know you. All I know is that you're in here for a crime like I am. So, in order for me to protect myself, I have to be just as angry, or if not more, with you, and I don't even know you. You see what I'm saying? That's like a tactic in itself. Even if that's not your character, you really had to be that way.
Mhm.
At times, there were times when you got a lot of guys who attend like religious services and stuff like that. Those were the places that I seen as like secure zones where the bull crap wasn't tolerated. You understand what I'm saying? And it was in those moments when most of the time you can kind of, in a sense, let your guard down because everybody was in that area for a common purpose. You know, but then once you leave there, it's like it's back on. So that was one of many things that I feel like I had to do to survive. You know what I'm saying?
On the other hand, since both of y'all touched on the physicality, I'll touch on the psychological aspect of survival. When I went in, I was 24 years old. Still wasn't fully developed mentally. I had maybe a 6 year, 7 year run from high school, and I was on the street. So we hear a lot, and we are all from was rooted in the same area. So going to prison or going to jail was like a rites of passage. When you
Mhm.
lived the street life, you already knew people and knew of incarceration. You already knew what the prisons was. You seen people go and come back and go right back. We had cousins that every time they wasn't around, we knew they was in detention home or in prison. Every summer they would get locked up. So when it came to me being incarcerated, my expectations was one thing, but the reality and the environment was totally different. When I came into the system was under Governor McDonald's rule, and one of the things was is if your sentence plus your time added up over 84 years, then you was automatically shipped to supermax prison. So they considered you a lifer even if you wasn't sentenced to life, because 85% of your time you would basically be doing a life sentence if your sentence plus your age added up over 84 years. So I was sent all the way up. We're in the Tidewater area. I was sent all the way up to Wallace Ridge State Prison, which was the supermax at the time, and I was there until they turned that into a lower level, to a level 5. But while I was there, the psychological effects that I had to endure on top of the physicality, yeah, we had to fight, yeah, we had to prove ourselves, and we had to put on a mask for each aspect of our day. Every day was like a week. When you're going to chow in the morning at 4:30 in the morning, you're going to eat breakfast. That was the first time I actually walked through a cloud. I didn't even know what it felt like to be in a cloud,
Right.
and it's around me, and I'm sitting there looking like, what is this wetness? And the person in front of me is more worried about me stepping out of line, because if you step out of line, they're going to shoot you. So we had to actually hold the back of each other to be able to be in a straight line and make it to chow. And if one fight breaks out, they just shoot. They're not shooting at the people that's fighting. You're in like a war zone.
Yeah.
So the psychological effects of that and everything you had to learn at a fast pace dictated your survival. Also, when you're looking at, you're nobody until you gain an identity. And the way you gain an identity is belonging to a group, a religious group, or affiliation. Some people join gangs. Some people, just Tidewater, Richmond, at one time that was considered gangs, where that you just was with people that was from where you was from. And we was divided in that sense. And then it became where that when they changed the system over and it became more psychological instead of physical, we actually joined as one and looked at ourselves as doing time. And we dealt with it like that. But all of those things were psychological effects that we had to adjust to survive. You had to actually know how you was going to act when you went out on the yard. That was one mask, how you going to react, and what person you was going to be when you went to chow, versus you get different people in a small cell with you. You don't know who these people are. You can't choose who's coming in that small environment with you. That's a whole nother level of survival, and you being guarded and not revealing too much information because you're in there for a crime. So you're also looking at, what can come out of the wrong people learning who you are and what you're in there for. And, we had to look at the psychological effects also that we had to, endure to survive. I'll leave it
Right.
at that because we're going to keep going into things.
That's exactly what it was, man.
Yeah,
Oh man.
I
Yeah, it's
appreciate
a
it.
duality.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think we can imagine what it would be like in a prison, but until you're actually there, understanding what sorts of behaviors we have to adapt and who we have to be. And it's not necessarily just who I have to be. Like, even out here, we wear different hats, right? I'm a different person at work to I am with my family, and then I've got my mum hat on. And prison is no different from, that's what I'm getting from what you're saying, right? Like, you're one person around, maybe the guys you trust, and then maybe you're another person at school, maybe you're another person at work. And then when you're by yourself or you call home, you're a different person then. So it is difficult. And maybe all of those people aren't actually who you are. So, like, the versions of me that I present are just different versions of myself, because I can be my authentic self. But in prison, you're having to wear 7 hats that are completely, obscure to who you actually are. And I appreciate you for all sharing that. Sarah is ducked off, so I'm just going to continue with this. So the survival habits we just spoke with, obviously, when we went from the slideshow, these survival habits then follow you home. So the anger, the control issues, pull you away from people, essentially. That's what they're going to do. That impacts everything, your relationships, your job, and your sense of self. Jeremy, I want to start with you on this one. How did survival show up for you post-release?
Survival showed up for me post-release. We got to look at that. We bring our survival-based coping mechanisms that were successful for us in there out here. And I found myself isolating a lot because I had put myself at a distance with a lot of the chaos in there. But survival looked like me actually adjusting at my own pace, which was tremendous to people that was around me because I was goal orientated. So I just mapped out what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. And I put together a year worth of goals and I achieved them in 3 months. So the people around me was amazed, but it was internally that I wasn't healing or evolving because I still was guarded. I still was not expressing myself or knowing how to communicate or express emotions and things of that nature. So I was good on the sense of gaining things materialistically or being goal orientated. But on the other hand, I still had a lot of suppression going on and not expressing how I felt, how um, I was afraid and the fear of not achieving or making it was there. And that goes on with a lot of us. We have a fear of failure coming out here and making it out here. Yeah, we want to come home. And yeah, we're home. But then we start looking at what if I don't make it or what if this doesn't, and a lot of what ifs hit. So we have to have that support around us for us to be able to take the steps that are unfamiliar to us. So, that's how survival looked to me when I came out. I actually brought a lot of the coping mechanisms and a lot of the successful things that I had going for me and near out here. But once again, it was totally different from what I imagined or was told or how I seen it on TV or how we communicated it with guys that was just coming in. Because that's how we really filtered things. Then we would learn of what's going on by talking to friends and family on the phone. We would learn of what's going on by watching TV. I watched a lot of CNN and a lot of the news, so I'm on a worldly view and not on a community base or on common level. So when I'm coming out, I'm going into these communities or I'm dealing with my family, and a lot of that is foreign to me. I'll give you an example. When I went to a Supermax prison, um, one of my first cell partners was on his 44th year. He had did 44 years. And this guy used to watch Seventh Heaven all the time. I used to look at him like the degree of a person he was and how grumpy and how stern he was and how hard he was as a man. I'm like, what are you watching Seventh Heaven
Seven
for?
heaven.
And he told me, he said, man, this is the closest to family orientation I can get.
Wow.
They don't teach us how I'm going home to my niece. She's the only one left in my family alive. And I want to know how to act at a dinner table with them. I want to know how to adjust to a family atmosphere because I don't know how. And I couldn't relate to that then. But twofold, when I got out, I didn't know how, and I wasn't comfortable going out to eat with a lot of people around me. I didn't, I had to remember table manners and things of that nature because we used to eat in a cell or on the floor, or cooking a meal that consists of certain things. So you got to get back to table etiquettes and things like that. So we'd be uncomfortable. So at that time, I had to adjust to the common things. So I was good with goal orientation. So I'm quite sure that Ahmad or Solomon has other aspects of how they had to adjust and survive when they came.
Definitely. To be honest, my adjustment was really a struggle for me, and I can honestly say I can overcame that struggle. For me, when I was incarcerated, even before I was incarcerated, I never really had no family support. I was homeless when I was 13. My mother abandoned me. So I never had no family support. When I did 18 years in prison, I went 16 or 17 without even receiving a visit. So I always had a sense of bitterness, like nobody cares about me. And then what I really struggled was I came home other than the way I came in. I came home disabled. So I didn't want to be seen. I mean, when I first came home, I was took around. I don't know Frankie Knox and just
Mhm.
some guys we know we grew up with. They came and see me. They hugged me. I said, "Hold on, I can't walk. I can't walk, y'all." And it was a shame. I didn't want to go out in public. I didn't never want to go. They're like, "Come on, man, let's celebrate." And I carried that like, look at me. Look at. I could see the stares. Like, dang, this the same guy. And then I came home. Like I said, I enrolled in college before I actually came home, but I had got a GED in school. I didn't. The highest grade of education I had was ninth grade education. So I got a GED, and just so I come home to and start enrolling in school, I didn't know how to turn on the desktop computer. That's how I met my wife at school. I kept asking, "How you do this? How to do this?" I didn't know how to know Word document. I didn't know how to use a cell phone. I was still struggling how to use this technology. But so that was a real struggle. I didn't have the support. But one thing I did have was the resolve. I had to resolve that I'm not going back there. I had to resolve that I'm going to do something better for myself. I came home. I applied for disability. They kept shooting me down. Well, they like, you 37 years old, you can work, you could do this. I kept applying, but I applied myself. I got a job as a telemarketer, just doing what I can do. And I just finally I just said I'm gonna pack up. When I went to top of the community college, I said I'm gonna take me a student loan out. Took me a loan out, bought me a car, and just moved to North Carolina. Didn't know nobody down here, but I said I need a change of environment because I know the environment where you there you go, there you are. But I just felt like the pain I felt so much, the experience I had in Virginia, like your brother Jeremy said, I left, I was attacked, I had my stroke at Wallen Ridge Prison. So the trauma, I just said I need a new fresh start with don't nobody know me, and that's what I did. But it was a struggle because I didn't have this support. I didn't have the support of family or friends. I just relied on my inner resource, my creator, my spirituality that seen me through. So it was a struggle. And it's still a struggle, but through the grace of God, I've been making it. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you're doing a fine job, cuz.
thank
Fine
you, man.
job. Yeah, for me, I've had support my entire my entire sentence. The main person who I could always count on. There were several people who I could always call on for help, for whatever. But my dad had always been there. I'm talking about when I was way up in the mountains. He would take that trip, that 7, 8 hours both ways. You know what I'm saying? Um, I always had that. But coming home, my father's an older guy, and he's not real computer savvy. So there were people close to me who helped me figure that out, and I still struggle with that right now. You know what I'm saying? Um, but far as what I used, far as from there to out here, far as survival, um, I was the last prison I was at was Lawrenceville Correctional Center, and I would get up maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. They would pop my door. This was during COVID, and from COVID until I got out of prison, I got up 3 o'clock every morning, and I would just clean the entire pod. I'm talking about from top to bottom, and it was a lot of guys would be like, "Why are you doing this?" It was more therapeutic for me, um, because I done a lot of work in there. You might as well say for free, making 45 cents. It's nothing. Where people were out here making $15 or $20 doing the same job. But for me, it was more so me training and preparing myself, saying, if I could be in here sweeping and mopping and breaking my neck to get out of the cell for free, for pennies, I can do that out here with ease. So that was like my preparation for getting out. And so when I came home, I mean, that's literally what I done within my first 2 weeks home. Um, I I used that same technique when I got the job as a fire watch with a company called AR Tech, working on the shipyard. And man, I the same thing that I done in prison is what I done on the ship, just being a fire watch. And it actually translated into them, actually the company that I was working for, BMF, actually signing me on permanent because of my work ethic. And some people looked at it like, oh man, you're a hard worker, you're a hard worker. It wasn't hard work to me. I was just looking at them days when I would look at my check, when you only got paid once a month in prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would look at that check and I would be like, man, all that work I do for this,
Mhm.
you know, all of that work that I do for $30 a month, which was pennies.
Yeah.
So it meant nothing to me to come home and say, you know what? If I can do that for $30 a month, I know I can do it for $20 an hour. with a smile on my face. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And that's so that was like it was like a therapeutic slash, I guess, survival thing for me in there, but it translated to me actually gaining employment, um for the employer noticing my work ethic and actually saying, hey man, we don't want you, it's just a temp, we want to bring you on permanent. So um that was just one of many things that I guess could be looked at as survival in there, but that helped me out here. And I
Mhm.
still, it's the same way to this day. I still got a hustle, hustle, hustle mentality every day, you know? So, yeah.
Can I
I
add
think,
to that? Because can I add to that? Is it all right if I add to that?
yeah, go for
You,
it.
UV, you there?
Uh, yeah, I'm there. I wanted to add to what you just said, Amar, because one thing I
Can y'all
do
hear
want
me?
to say.
Oh, he
Can
can't
you
hear
hear us?
you.
Hello?
I don't know
You
if he
can hear
can hear
us?
you.
Can you
Can
hear
you
us,
hear us?
Ahmad?
Yeah, yeah, I hear y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah,
yeah.
hear
we can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
can hear you. I just wanted to add to what you
Well,
were
yeah,
just saying
that's
because
yeah,
you brought
that
up a
was,
lot of things that
like I
was
said, one of many things that I use to this day. Um, and I try to tell guys, because there's still a lot of guys who call me from prison, and and I tell them, I say, man, just look at what you're doing now, and just translate that into dollars. That's the
Mhm.
best way I could tell them as a start for when you come home, so that you can become, you can learn to be more independent and less dependent on others. You know, because I think prison, in a way, my personal opinion wise, so many people actually uh use it, become a a revolving door in and out of prison, is because they don't have that fear. They don't they prison is more of a way to it's easier for some people. I may be wrong, but my view of it is that it's easier to deal with, everything provided for you every day, as opposed to doing it for yourself. And
Mhm.
that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be out here, and I said I was scramble as much as I can out here, then sit in another cell. So yeah, yeah,
Go ahead, Jeremy.
one thing I wanted to add that you brought up, Ahmad. A lot of the thing we do bring a lot of positives out with us, and one of the things that we endure in there is that we hear a lot of no's and we have a lot of turn downs. I mean,
yeah,
from our legal pursuit to our everyday norms, we get a lot of rejection. So
yep,
when I came out, I wanted to be in the peer field and I wanted to continue what I was doing in there because I had a passion for it. The first thing I was told was because of your background and because of your charges and because of you coming from incarceration, you'll never make it in this field and you'll never get a job. I mean, they was using the word never. It's no need for you to get the training. You're not going to be hired because of your barrier crimes. I mean, I went through all that. And to me, at that point, no was a starting point because I had heard so many no's and I had got so many rejections. And there, I had started using that for motivation. So when I got out here and I heard that no, I said, okay, if I can't get in the field, the first thing I'm gonna do is follow these goals. I'm gonna get the first job I can. Within the first month, I had two jobs because I knew I had to get transportation. I had to put myself in position to be able to achieve things that people was telling me I couldn't achieve. And I had to change the narrative of what they looked at people as such as myself in the behavioral health field. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't me just trying to slide in and get in where I could fit in. I truly wanted to help people. So I was willing to take what came to me before I got what I desired. And that's a key point when people coming home. They got to trust in the process and know that there are steps that we have to take. It's not going to be instant for us, and we're not going to get what we want as soon as we get out. And that's another deterrent and adds to the recidivism because of course somebody will want to go to what's normal or what they know. So
right,
reverting
right,
back is
Mhm.
so easy for us to do
right.
because we have already mastered that environment. We have already been there, done that. But when we're coming out here and somebody's telling us you won't survive this way, you won't survive that way, we can't bite or buy into that. We had to say, okay, what is another step that I can do? And that's what asked myself. Well, I know I could go get a manual labor job. So that's what I did. When I got 2 manual labor jobs to add and start my financial freedom and stability to be gathered. And I also still took trainings in the peer field that I wasn't afforded inside of incarceration because this was before they were certifying peers in there. So I went and educated myself on the level to be on an equal stance in the field. And then I had to gain the confidence to say, okay, I still can make it out here in this field, even though my background is what it is. So I wanted to say that because that's very poignant to individuals that's up here, have people coming home. You know, we need that support and encouragement to take the steps that are there for us to get to where we're desired to go. Because it may not be a path that's open for as soon as we get out, but you take what is there for you. And I had similar families and friends that Solomon was talking about earlier. And when they asked me what I wanted when I got out, I said a job. I
That's
don't
right.
want no clothes.
That's
I
right.
don't want, yeah, I don't want no money. Can you help me with a job?
Give
That's
me a
right.
Because I
job.
wanted to
That's
be
right.
able to get my own means and be independent in my approach to my life that I wanted to develop. So I was different in that standpoint, and they was looking at me like, you know, everybody that come home don't say that they need help with a job. So you have to come out with your own identity in that sense, and that's a part of adapting and bringing those positive behaviors that we develop in there out here, because it's not all
Hmm.
negative behaviors that we learn and develop in there.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that's really valuable, and I guess from the other perspective, and I know that you guys have spoken very much about those positive sort of um, transferable skills. I want to kind of go now onto those skills that you thought might have transferred that didn't, because I can imagine, and I have experienced um, those coping skills and those maladaptive coping skills show up out here. And I think, sometimes it might not be something that you considered before you left. Like, it wasn't even a thought process thinking, oh, this might turn up. Or maybe you thought that it was something that you could continue doing out in the community, but didn't work, right? You tried it and it didn't work for you, or it ended up badly. So from that, I want to talk about the shift point. At what point, you know, you hit a moment, maybe it was subtle, maybe there's a story you can tell or something that reminisces with you where you knew that something had to change. You had to start making a conscious effort to recognize what was working, what wasn't, and what you had to let go of. Ahmad, do you want to kind of start us off with what that shift point was for you?
Oh man, uh, that were numerous things. Um, I had, and at times I still deal with like, I don't mind being alone. Like some people being alone and not talking, it bothers them. It doesn't bother me, but I notice that people who want to connect with me um feel as though sometimes me being standoffish, I guess you could say, is an issue. Whereas it's not that I'm trying to create anything or create an issue. It's just prison kind of made it so that I would be in my head a lot. And being out here in the real world where you have the free will to do whatever, there are times where I still kind of be in my own head. And it kind of I guess you could say it translated into a relationship and made relationships a little more difficult. So that's one thing that I've been working on. Just being more I guess you could say verbal, and breaking out of that cycle right there where it was just okay just to be quiet, if I'm making sense.
Hmm.
Um
Learning
that
how
was
to
one.
express.
Yeah, because coming up the way I came up, the way we all came up, it was like, you were emotionless, and
Hmm.
then going to prison just it just magnified that and made it almost normal to just be to not feel, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something that that for me I've been trying to change, trying to grow out of and do better with being more more vocal. So I don't know if anybody had anything to add to that.
Well, I would say a major shift point with me was getting seeing the reality of the world because, like I said, I was isolated for over a decade. So I spent a
Hey,
lot of
Solomon went
time.
out.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Uh, so, like I was saying, my shift was kind of in a different area because, as I said, I spent over a decade in isolation. So, in isolation, is like you basically confined. You come out 3 times a week if you're lucky to get that, and go to a shower and placed in the cage for an hour a day. So I spent a lot of time in solitude, but I use that time. I spent the time meditating. I did a lot of reading, a lot of yoga, meditating. So I had this perception that the world is just peace, home type stuff. So to get out here, I was very naive. I would say I would get a little money working, whatever. People say, my family say, "Welcome back, man. Let me get a couple dollars." I would do that, and I was. What really was a shift change was I was coming. I came home. I had a different mentality, but to see people that I grew up with 20, 30 years later doing the same thing. And I was putting myself in situations. I would go to their house, they selling weed, or they selling this. And I had one incident, I had a guy, I grew up with him. So I was getting him a ride somewhere. And then when we got to the location, he said, "Let me get this out the car." He pulled out, he had a pound of weed and a gun in the car. And I was like, wow. And I said, that quick, I could be back in the prison. And I didn't even know he had it in him. So that was like a major shift. Like, yo, I can't trust nobody. The world isn't how I had to get burned a couple times to see that the world isn't how I perceived it. Kind of made me cold hearted, but maybe more on a survival mechanism. Like, can't trust nobody. The world is only everybody care about themselves. So I couldn't get a free ride. I had to pay for everybody. This I was like, yo, the world isn't. That was a real shift change to me, but it was a good shift change because it helped me say, look, I need to focus on me and stop focusing on others, and get myself straight. So
Right.
Well, shift change on one side. The beginning of this process for me when I first got incarcerated. I have a daughter. So me being separated from her, I felt like I failed. And at that point of where that I'm locked up and she's out there without me, she was 3 years old. Well, she was two going on three when I became incarcerated, and she was 24 going on 25 when I made it home. So I missed her whole life. But the shifting point was I felt that I took myself from her. So in that instant right there, that was my shift to change who I was and get myself together. So throughout my whole incarceration, I'm constantly, at crossroads, making decisions that are tough, making decisions that will isolate me from my peers in there, because a lot of the positive decisions that we make, you got to realize that we're coming from the streets to an environment that mirrors that.
Right.
So you're coming from an environment that is based on criminology to another environment that thrives off manipulation and criminology.
mhm.
So you're looking at either isolating yourself and being totally the opposite of what's going on around you for whatever your common cause is, and taking the stigmas, the labels, and the stereotypes that come with that, and then making it to the point of saying, okay, now I have to adjust and get myself ready for release. And a lot of times it's not clear. Like with me, I didn't know when that would be, but I knew through my change that I would gain another chance at life. Because in my mind, when I was sentenced to 61 years, I automatically say, no, I'm not doing 61 years, because to me, I didn't do the things, and legally, I didn't do the things that would warrant that amount of time.
Right.
But the shift, and you got to realize the shift comes at different points and different times throughout the process when we're looking at the longevity of our incarceration, because we did over decades in incarceration.
Right.
Now, twofold getting out here, I still see myself shifting because I'm still learning and adjusting. So the adjustment periods, it doesn't have a time limit on it as far as me seeing things and being able to adjust to a life out here because I miss almost 22 years of it. And that reality is still unfamiliar to me. So it's still a shift going on emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. But
Hmm.
physically, I'm out here.
Hmm.
Right.
I had a question. I guess kind of from what Solomon was saying, like you saying that you kind of had to realize that not everyone was for you out here. I guess a question for the three of you, for me, is like I hear a lot when I talk to guys inside, particularly if they might be affiliated, that if something goes down, that there's people that are going to come and have your back, right? There's people, it's like a, an unspoken thing that someone's going to come in and have your back, or if there's a fight about to start. Do you almost feel like you had more of a sense of those around you and their loyalty in prison than what you experienced when you came out into the community? Like, did you find that people were more for themselves out here than they were inside?
I'm glad you asked that question because that's something like I had a tight knit the group of guys I did serve time with. I had a bond with, and like I said, that bond remains. So when I got married, and I was in a relationship, and she would see me, the guys that I would write letters to, I was still, this guys in prison I still contact with, and she was like, "Why you going to see him and you visit him in this? Like, what's wrong? Was you gay or something?" She asked me that one time, but she didn't understand the fact that during the time of my incarceration, the only family I had was those that I was incarcerated with that was like brothers to me. And that's how it is now. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't have a lot of support. And there's one brother, they know him, he's kind of under the radar, Joshua Bang. I was at a point in my life when nobody was writing me or nothing. I was actually thinking about committing suicide. This brother wrote me, I had met him well, I knew him, but we had formed a bond while incarcerated. And he gave me his word. When I get released, I'm gonna look out for you. It took me 5 years to write it because people give you promises and don't fulfill them. So I thought he would just give me another a promise that won't get fulfilled. But I wrote him. This guy wrote me back. He sent me money and he started sending me pictures. And I was like, he said, "Man, you incarcerated, you in the hole. What you gonna do? What you want to do?" He paid for me to go to college, a correspondence course. And I got a letter to this. This how I know the brother Amar. Really, I know of Amar, but didn't know him. He wrote me a letter, and the brother said, "I'm gonna get all y'all out of prison. I'm working on getting Amar a lawyer. Then I'm gonna get you another lawyer. I'm gonna get Shotgun." He was naming guys he trying to get out of prison. But that right there, I formed a bond with these guys that I still have, and I see the world like, yo, they don't have that bond. Like even Jeremy and Lamar, I met them physically when I came home, but I feel like I have a bond with them because we have a shared experience. But you know, we know how it is, and we come out here trying to make a difference. When some other people, I was like, I can't relate to a lot of them out here because they still just me and mine. That mentality. I had a warped view. When I was in prison, the guys I hung with, we had similar values, rosters or Muslims, whatever it was. They had principles. So to come out here and see everybody just by themselves, they would sell you out for $1. It was hard to relate. So and it still do. Like I keep a very small circle. I don't go out. I don't have a lot of social life. Those who I integrate, talk to, a social with, is like guys like here you see here. So
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I think people would assume the opposite.
yeah.
Yeah. See, and I agree with Solomon 100%. Like when you were during incarceration, most of the time you hung with when I know when I got older, you know, and going from prison to prison, you run across the same people from prison to prison, whether you're at a high level or low level, and you form a bond with those people, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times there are things that transpire, and if you know that you and the guys that you hang with, that you rock with, y'all aren't involved into none of the nonsense.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna let UV or Solomon, if we together every day, I'm not gonna let them get into nothing because
Hmm.
that ain't what we into. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? We our focus is let's get the hell out of prison. Let's make it out of prison. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that if you constantly into the bullshit. Excuse my language. But same way out here, you have a lot of people who um they don't see the world the way we do because
Mhm.
many haven't walked the path that we walk. So they
Right.
only see it one-sided. We see it from both sides, and it's like I would rather be in a small circle of like-minded individuals, whether it's something big going on or not, just because I know that at the end of the day, if it's nothing more than just a conversation from whomever, or point me in the right direction where I can get a better job or something to that effect. That's what the focus is. The nonsense, we've been there. We've been through the nonsense. So that's not what we, choose to be in the circle with. I know I don't. And I'm sure that these brothers are the same way. So it's kind of like you choosing the battle, and you like, why battle with these brothers when I can build with them, and I
Mhm.
can we all can grow from each other. You see what I'm saying? Like UV, he called me. He was like, man, he said, what are you doing on such and such date? And I mean, I'm just giving you an example of what I mean by everything that I'm saying. He was like, what are you doing on such and such date? And I'm like, I don't think I'll be doing anything. um he said, look, man, it's it's an organization, man. They real good at what they do and bringing awareness and so on and so forth. And he was telling me about you all, and he was like, man, I'd like for you to come on there with me. He said, because I feel as though you have something to share. And that's the mentality that you choose to be around. Somebody that's like, I see your growth, I see
Mhm.
your potential, I see, what you have to offer, and I want you to share that. You know what I'm saying? The same thing, same way I can see it in him and Solomon. So, when you leave prison and you come out here, though you have brothers that you left in there that you still stay in contact with, and you want the best for them as well. You
Mhm.
got brothers out here that you want the best for them, that want the best for you. So you stay in that circle and try to bring each other up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
While while we doing time, one thing that we endure is that friends and families fade. When you're in there, life is life and it's still moving. So people are still
Mhm.
living their life, and we're in there and they're out here. So a lot of people that we considered family or we considered friends, it fades. You have a handful of people that continue to support you. Uh, the individual that Solomon was talking about, he supported me too, and that's family to me. I
Mhm.
already had that sense of affiliation and camaraderie as I moved down from New York to Virginia. And the area that we always in, I felt like that was family, and the people that surrounded me was my family.
that's right.
So they wasn't blood relatives, but they was my family
That's
because
right.
those was the people I could count on, and those were the people that I knew, no matter what side of me showed up, they supported it.
That's right.
Even if I was wrong, they would tell me I was wrong, but they still would support me. Vice versa, when I went to prison, a lot of people that I thought that would be there wasn't there. A lot of people, and I'm talking about family and so-called friends, because that's what happens when we get in there. We automatically isolated from our loved ones, and our loved ones are treated to a certain way to push them away from us. Because the way they're treated in visitation, when we're shipped way across the state and they can't make it to us, or we in rural areas that we really don't want them coming in,
Yep.
all that is a deterrent from family engagement, from being in touch with your loved ones. So the system is designed for that. So all we left with is us. So the individuals that I was around, that's what I knew as a brotherhood and as my family in there.
That's right.
Now that goes both ways because a lot of them, when you talk about affiliation, I knew that the loyalty was situational, meaning that they was going to be loyal to me because of the situation we was in on whatever compound we was at and whatever the level of oppression was. So we would keep each other up, keep each other motivated. And if I don't have something to eat, or mom might have soups this week, and then the next week when I get money in, I'm going to put it back on the table, and we still going to eat from week to week. But the outside relatives and blood family is not there. But Ahmad is there, Solomon is there. So all we know is the struggle that we are going through together and how we're surviving together. Twofold, when I came home, I still had the same mentality. If you wasn't like-minded with me, whether you was family or not, I kept distance from you, because the change that I made and the mind frame that I have, if I can't see similar ambitions and drives in you, I don't really need to be around you, because I know that I'm a loyal individual. And if you don't have the same goals and the same foresight and the same ambitions to me, then that is a deterrent to me, and that will take me back. So we have learned from prison and affiliations, both sides, because we knew everybody that surrounded us wasn't for us or of us. But in that situation, we had to stick together to survive.
Right.
So coming out here, I know when I go to work, it's not for me to make family or to bring my personal life. That's just my colleagues at work. So it teaches us on different levels of coming out here, where that I can't give all of me to every environment or to every person, because every environment and every person is not healthy for me.
That's right. That's right.
I think that's key, right? Like you separating work and personal now, but when you're in prison, the people that you work with are the people that you live with, the people
Right.
that you go out and spend rec with, the people that you eat with. And so there isn't that separation. And so, like, I think, do I have a bunch of people that I could go to right now and be like, hey, I'm short on groceries this week. Can you fix me up until next week? There'd probably be very few people that I could go to for that. But what you're saying, and I hear it all the time in advocacy, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, dude needed some soups, or dude came in from another prison, and it takes time to get your property. And so it's often the people around you that go, hey dude, let me help you out with some hygiene, or let me help you out. You can watch my TV, you can listen to my player, and that camaraderie. Whilst there's a lot of negatives we hear about prison, there is that sense of brotherhood, and it's almost like we're in the struggle together. And so we have to stick by one another, because otherwise if we're separated, that's what they want, right? Like we form this family, and I can imagine that's quite difficult. Like you said, Solomon, that you keep in touch with the guys that are still in, but coming out of prison, it's almost like some of you spent more time in prison than you spent or had spent outside here. So the majority of your life was spent in that environment.
Yeah.
Come home, and all of a sudden everyone everyone you've just spent 20 odd years with is gone. You can't just go and hang out in someone's room if you need a chat. You got to find new people. All of a sudden, you can't just call them. You got to wait till they call you.
Right.
And so I can imagine that that's incredibly
Yep.
difficult. And I want to thank you all for being so vulnerable with that. We do have a little break now, but I did want to mention actually what Christina said. Is purely that he's been in longer than he was in the streets. Some of those men know him better than myself and his mother. That's your family day to day, every day. We have a large incarcerated family, and yeah, that's so valid. I mean,
Right.
so valid. All right, Sarah, did you want to go ahead on the next part?
Yeah, so all right, we're just going to take a quick pause at this moment. We're doing a $25 gift card giveaway to thank y'all for being here and engaging.
So we want everyone to write in the chat strategy over survival, and we will draw the winner in a minute here. Obviously, there was a challenge that we wanted 50 RSVPs on the live event, and we got well over that. We got up to 60. So we are doing a gift card giveaway. I've put everyone's names in the wheel. So everybody, if you can write strategy over survival, and I will bring up that wheel real quick. Guys, I will drop you down if you want to go get a drink, take a second, go to the bathroom, whatever. This is that opportunity to go and do so. So I'll pop you down if you want to go and do that. All right, so let me share my screen. Remember, the person that we do draw does need to be in the chat. So if they're not, please share it out. definitely share it out and remind people that we are drawing and they need to be in here if they want a chance at winning. Our last winner was Megan from IDEA. I will encourage you all to go and follow Megan and what her team are doing. So I'm going to share my screen now and show you all the wheel of names. All right, so can you see my screen? Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So we are going to spin. Alrighty. So is Wendy Dollar Hyde in the chat? So we'll give her a minute or so to comment. If you can keep an eye on it, Sarah and the Bridges team.
Wendy, if you're here, go ahead and comment in the chat that you're here so we know you're here before we draw somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Please. I feel like we'll be an auctioneer. Going once, going twice. All right.
All right. We will draw another name. Next name. Jennifer Rose Gerolf Smith.
All right. Jennifer Broff Smith. I hope I said that last name right. If you're in the chat, please go ahead and let us know you are here.
All right. We are going to draw again.
Ready.
We can go through all the names. This is going to take a minute.
All right. Amy Ray Davis, JD. If you're in the chat, if you're in this live, please let us know you're here so we can give you this gift card.
Man, so many people not here.
Yep,
Going again.
Maserati Yada.
What a name. Love that.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to give everybody about a minute to reply. If we're not getting yes in the chat that you're here, we're going to pick another one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go again. If this one isn't here, then I'm just going to choose a random one off the list and put my finger on it.
Brian Mitchell. Brian Mitchell, are you here in this chat at this moment? I feel like the price is right. I might be telling my age with that one. It's like, come on down. All right.
Right? But no one's actually here. Or they're just sleeping. You know what I'm gonna make someone do? I'm gonna bring Ahmad up. Is he back?
No.
I don't know if he's back. Jeremy's here. Jeremy,
There he is. There
can you
go,
choose
Jeremy.
someone from the comments that you can see that has been commenting tonight and choose them for the gift card?
I see Kathy.
Kathy? All right, Kathy it is. Kathy, is Kathy on YouTube? Over on YouTube?
I believe so.
Okay, Kathy, if you can reach out to us either on Facebook or you can reach out to us at bridgesbeyondbarsva@gmail.com. We will send you your gift card on email. So thank you, everyone, for coming in and for being here. And for those that weren't here, that's very sad. Very sad for them. If anyone knows all of them, they can let them know that they missed out.
Yeah, they missed out.
That's very sad. Okay, so now obviously we can get into the next part, the back end of our discussion tonight. Sarah, did you want to go ahead and talk about adaptive strategies?
Yes. So, let's go ahead and talk about what works, right? What does healthy coping actually look like outside of prison? Think therapy, journaling, mindfulness, accountability, real tools that build stability. Solomon, do you want to go ahead and lead us into this?
Yeah. Well, as for me, really, meditation has been helping me a lot. Having a close look community like the guys here, and my practices. I go to therapy myself, and spirituality has really helped me. I journal as well, and I do things self care. I do like natural stuff. Go to the parks, stuff like that, and that's really been helping me. And finding the space just to get away from things. Like I say, I'm really big on self care, relaxation, stuff like that. So that's really been helping me. And doing things like this, helping others, is a way of what I call selfless service. That
Yeah.
also has been therapeutic for me. So
Mm-hmm.
You want to go? Or you want me to go?
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I'm with everything that Solomon just said. I do put self care. I have really had to get to taking care of myself um, all over again because it's an adjustment from us coming from an incarcerated environment to out here as far as self care. But also, what I have noticed lately is my sense of connection to the individuals that I left behind that had a big void. And I started what I did a couple of months ago is I finally got in touch with two brothers that I did do almost 20 years with, and we met and sat down and talked, and we started doing uploads together, and it helped us. I felt really good and relieved and open because I felt like I could communicate and identify with them. So that helped me a lot with adapting to this environment and feeling like I belonged and being able to release a lot of the stressors that, follow me out here. So also now I go, and everybody can't be an activist and things of that nature, but I also support events that are of and by incarcerated individuals, because that gives me a sense of belonging and giving back. Because
Right.
we also feel like we left people behind, and it's difficult for us. Even though they're telling you you can go home, you feel like you're leaving people
Hmm.
that you love and that are your family behind.
Right. Right.
And you have to tell them it's bittersweet because your family is so happy you're coming home, but then you don't know how to tell people that you're leaving. And you're in the car with people you haven't seen in decades and you love so much, but you're looking at a place that you ain't never seen the outside of, and you're thinking about the individuals you just walked away from, and you don't know how to adjust in that manner. So I had to do that to be able to heal and move on. I had to have some type of means of still being connected to those individuals because I still didn't feel whole. Even though I was meditating, even though I go to the gym and do all these things, I still felt like it was a void there and that everything wasn't in place. So with us, we still have to have some type of connection or affiliation to incarceration. And that's sad, but it's true
Hmm.
because we have spent the majority of our life in there and people that we really care about are still in there. So in order for us to be able to thrive and adjust out here, we still have to have a connection to that. And I had to learn that and adjusting, and that was another shift for me. Like, what can I do to fill that void, but still not be of incarceration? Because I also had to warn myself, because when I first got out, I was on the phone all day, still talking about prison with people in prison. I was on the phone all day, still telling them how to move or how to survive in prison. So I still was incarcerated to a sense, and I had to balance that out. So now I have finally learned how I can balance that out and still feel like it's okay to move on and it's okay to live and still be able to be in touch or support individuals that I care about and I had to leave behind. So a lot of people don't understand that about us either. Like, why are you still talking to people in there? Or why are you still of that mind frame and you're out here? You need to leave that alone. But we can't leave it alone to be whole because that is the makeup of what made us or builds us to be who we are now.
Yeah.
So I couldn't give my totality to everybody in there, but to the brothers that I could, I can't just turn my back on them.
Hmm.
So I'm still of that environment because they're still in that environment.
Right.
That's
So
right.
I had to find a way to balance myself, and that becomes spiritual, it becomes mental, and then it becomes physical because of the stress. So we go through that too, and I had to find that balance. So I want to put that out there too, not just dealing with the norms of meditation, exercise, self care. We got to look at the spiritual attachment, the emotional attachment, and
Hmm.
the mental attachment to leaving family behind. It's like it's all over again. It's like we
Hmm.
getting going had to go through that all over again. When I got convicted, I had to leave my family behind and the people that I love. And then when I got released, I had to leave my family behind and the people I love. So then I had to find a whole nother way of balancing myself out to be able to be productive in a positive manner and wonder why that void is still there. So I had to get in touch with that side of myself too.
Wow. Hey, and you said something right there when you said it's okay to move on. Like, I think a lot of time we feel like we with moving on, it's like you're leaving your brothers behind. You know what I'm saying? But it's okay. You know what I'm saying? And talking to some of the homies that's locked up, man, it's like a lot of them say the same thing, like, bruh, live your life, bruh. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
catch you when I catch you. It's almost like they understand it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, and hearing that, it's like, okay, now I can move forward a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still bringing you along with me. You know what I'm saying? If I'm
Amen.
making sense, I know y'all understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but yeah. So it's like, man, then it's like, um, whatever I can do now and then so when y'all come, I can lead you down that same path, man. So it'll make your re-entry back into society a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to have those avenues, man. Because I think if not, it makes things so much harder for you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I definitely agree with that, man.
Can I
Go ahead, Simon.
I want to mention this. Me and UV, Amal, we was talking about this before some months ago, and I noticed a trend where a lot of us brothers that I personally know that we served a lot of time in prison, we came home and we just jumped into these relationships. A lot of us there, I know I did, and
Yeah,
a lot of these relationships ain't last. Like I caught
yeah,
like my best friend, he just did 29 years. Other best friend, he did 23 years, and we jumped in these relationships as soon as we came home and they failed, well, needed some more additional work. And like in my case, I don't know about others, but you know, being spent so much time incarcerated and deprived of love, you want to love support, this. So when I came home, I met an individual, and within a matter of months, she said, I don't believe in shacking up, we got to get married. And I'm like, okay. Next thing I know, from the magistrate, I do, but never get the time to learn or know who we are, because it was a sense of I want to love and be loved. So I think a lot of that we experience that, and that kind of goes back to what the brother was saying about that bond we had with those that's we've been served time with. You one foot out there, still in here, because we can relate to each other. Like, I called the brother. He said, "Yeah, man, me and my girl just split up." Now, like, because we didn't, everybody we had these problems because it's still an adjustment thing. It's
right,
a lot to do with it, and it
right,
affects you subconsciously. We don't even know, So
right. I agree 100%, man.
yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to read this comment because this is why we do this, right? Like Kathy said, we, those who
Please.
don't know about incarceration, have absolutely no idea about what these men and women do to live productive, meaningful lives on the outside. I appreciate the honesty and education. And I think that's key. Obviously, a lot of our community is people that are directly or indirectly impacted by the criminal justice system or prison, but it is these people that we catch in the flow that may never um, get involved or know someone that's involved with the criminal justice system. But the reality is that they're still voters, they're still taxpayers, and their voices still matter. And so when we can reach into the lives of people that would otherwise not want to go and seek out that information or be exposed to that, I believe that's where the real change and the cogs start to turn, is when we start to reach out to people that go, hey, like, you're really no different from me in terms of who we are. And that when you cut us open, we all look the same, we all bleed the same. And I need to understand your perspective and the life trajectory that you've gone along so that I can be better. And so I wanted to thank all of you for doing that, because it's a hard conversation. These aren't easy conversations to have, but we're impacting more than just the people that are either inside, loving someone inside, or previously incarcerated.
Right, right,
If we can move on now, I guess, into the next segment, which is about support systems. So we have touched on a little bit. Um, Specifically, when you come home, obviously, we're not doing this alone. Whether it's informal or formal supports, change does take the support of people. So, mentors, family, programs, doctors, therapists, friends. Jeremy, who helped you to stay grounded during your return home?
Um, Immediately, it was family. And what I mean by that is the individual that a lot of us are talking about now, that was one of the individuals. But when I came home to my mother and my sister, and I came home to maybe four individuals that had been there off and on, but they was my brothers when I went in. But it was more or less for me the things that I had a determined idea on what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. I needed them to be firm in keeping me goal orientated or focused on what I wanted to do with myself. Because really, when you're looking at a support system for a person coming from incarceration, we identify with firmness. So any leeway or any wiggle room, we're gonna make our way into either making excuses or making solutions because we feel that we could capitalize over it because we see vulnerability. And that's how our mind is conditioned in there on a survival level. And we're coming out here, and if a person is not firm with it, saying, "Oh, well, you haven't got a job and it's been 3 months, you're all right." We're going to use that. We're going to keep going instead of a person saying, "Well, you know, you need to get on your feet," because you got to look at gainful employment. And I'm speaking to the supporters out there. You got to look at family support, gainful employment, stable housing, and community support. These four components is what any person coming from incarceration automatically needs to be successful. So you have to be firm with your loved ones in achieving these and supplying that. A lot of people may not have family, but they need community support. A lot of people may not want or know how to get a job. So you have people in your family that can help you with a job. A lot of people may not have stable housing because a lot of people are paroled out, and now they say that you have to be released to a residence. But I have seen in certain instances individuals was released and they had
Enough.
illnesses, they was homeless,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yep.
reentry process was not intact.
Yep.
So we have to look at the holes that are in the system and fulfill them the best way we can. But at the same time, a great support system deals in patience. You got to have patience while you trust the process of your loved one developing themselves, because it may not be overnight that we achieve these things, and it may not be instant that we react, because a lot of times we isolate ourselves when we get out because we just want peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I just need a peace of mind because I just came from war. I just came from an environment that's chaotic and it's always going and never stops.
Yep.
So I need a minute to adjust. I need a minute to breathe. I need a minute to gather my thoughts. And I need a minute to understand that this is a reality. So at that point, that you see somebody isolating, too much isolation is harmful, but allow people room to breathe. In
Mm-hmm.
that sense, allow room for them to express themselves and not looking for an immediate turnaround or them to immediate success, in the sense of them just getting out, getting on their feet, and achieving things like a normal person would in society, because it's totally different from for us to come out from an environment where that you're mandated to work, you're mandated to do the things you do, and you're forced to do things versus having the independence to do things on your own time and at your own will. So that takes a minute for us to adjust. So the support system needs to be in a sense of patience and genuine love to say, okay, I got you, even when you don't achieve things at a certain rate. I got you when you can't figure it out. I'll help you figure it out. So a support system looks like a person that cares about you, but is also firm enough to push you, because we're going to
Mm-hmm.
need that push.
Yep. That's real. That's real. You going Solomon?
Now you go ahead.
Oh, yeah, man. Support. Um, all of us spoke about, you know, Joshua Bang. Shout out to Joshua Osiris, man. I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that he knows how much um how big of a factor he was in our lives and many people's lives, just with
Yes.
the letters alone. You know what I'm saying? The
Mm-hmm.
letters, the motivational words, you know what I mean? And then to come home and cuz is still doing the same, and keeping you motivated and stuff like that. That right there, that helped a lot. You know what I'm
That's right.
saying?
That's right.
Yeah, and because it showed that, though so many people are off in their own world doing what they do, some whom are friends and family of yours, it's still those few that say, man, though I'm living my life, I ain't forgot about you.
Mm-hmm.
That right there kick-started a lot for me. You know what I'm saying? To come
Um,
home and just say, okay, um, it's still people out here that are rooting for me, even though I don't even know how to root for myself right now. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It's like, where do I start? How do I start? But you have to start, and having people like him in your ear, no matter what he said, far as like, if, what you need, how can I help? It's just those things right there. Just knowing that, okay, if I fall flat on my ass, I know that I can reach out, and bro would give me something to to
Hmm.
get me started. Whether it's a refer, a reference somewhere or whatever it may be. Um, Family as well. My stepmom, man, she is just she has a way of telling you that you're not doing what you should be doing without necessarily saying it. And it was a few times when she just basically said, you have to be you. You have to do what you have to do, because you're not looking. um she basically was saying I was looking weak in a sense for I guess, like, um I don't know. I had so much energy when they would come visit. And it was like when I came home, there was a time when I guess she felt that I lost that energy. But I understood what she was saying when she said it. And it just, I don't know, it sparked something in me to where it's just like, okay, I gotta dig a little deeper and grind a little harder. And it's not so much about monetary, it's just about just, I don't know, setting things in place today for tomorrow. If I'm making sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think I think that's what a lot of us coming home from prison need. Just that real, honest person or people in your ear just saying, "Hey, man, get off your ass. What can I do to help you?" You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because a lot of times our pride sometimes prevent us from actually asking, because it's like, well, I'm of a certain age, I should know this, but hey, you've been gone from a world that's different from the world that you
Hmm.
knew when you left. It's
Right.
okay to ask for help. It's okay to, to allow someone to point you in the right direction. So support family, friends, um, outlets like this, for people that's tuning in that may be listening and learning from us on
Hmm.
how they can help their loved one that's coming back. um I believe is needed. So it goes so much deeper. I'm sure you all know what I'm saying. It goes a lot deeper, but just to brush the surface, every avenue, every outlet that can be utilized to help yourself in returning from prison is needed. So
Right.
yeah.
And I have a saying, meet people where they are. And me doing being a therapist now, some people just want to listen to ears. Some people just want you to know that you're there. Like to be honest, like when I got incarcerated, my son was 10 months. When I came home, he was an adult. But even in my incarceration, I always wrote his teachers, let me see a report card. So even though I wasn't physically present, I was still a presence.
Hmm.
And that's the
That's
big
right.
thing, support. I don't believe in no accidents or coincidences. Like I told y'all, I just upped up and left and came to another state, didn't know nobody, but I was always honest. Even the job I had, I came, I said, I don't have no experience in this, but I'm willing to learn, and they gave me a chance to make it. To be honest, even last week I just quit a job I've been working with for 4 years because I got a different job opportunity, and I had anxiety, but it worked out. So sometimes you got to take chances, just what you call it, faith or whatever you call it, just jump out there. But like I said, as far as support, it always will be as like I said, they got a saying. I don't know if it's true or not, but in the Chinese language, the word crisis has the same meaning as the word opportunity. So sometimes it's the crisis that we go through in our lives create opportunities for growth, development. So
Right.
that's how I look at it. Support will come in different ways. It may come like somebody put in the comments. It may come as tough love, and you grow from that. You learn from that. So support come in many ways. Yeah, are we
That's
gonna be
right.
receptive to it though?
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. What I just wanted to point out, the whole time y'all speaking, I'm over here thinking that it's amazing how each and every one of you have given have given a description of what support looked like to you. And Ahmad, you took the words right out of my head when you said it's not always monetary,
Right.
Mhm.
right? Because
Right.
money isn't going to last forever, right? Once you give
Right.
it, it's gone, right?
Right.
But it's the other support, that
Mhm.
long lasting support that y'all have mentioned that sticks. That's going to stick
Yeah.
with y'all forever.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
right.
Yeah.
money comes and goes. You
Mhm.
know, so it's amazing that y'all all hit on other aspects than monetary. Because for
Mhm.
me, as having a loved one in, people that don't understand the lifestyle on having somebody incarcerated, how to support them, what it takes on our aspect, our end of it, they're always like, well, all they want is money when they come home. All they want is money while they in. That's not the
Mhm.
case because you don't know. You're
Right.
speaking from the unknown.
Right.
Mm. Yeah.
That's true.
That's a good
That's
segue
true.
into our next part, Sarah, actually. Do you want to introduce the next part?
So, yes, I'll introduce the next part. I take her subtle clues. External judgment is loud, but sometimes the internal shame is even louder. Healing means unlearning the idea that you're only your past. Armand, can you speak on that? Bring us
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in not being my past. Though my past will travel with me for the rest of my life. And there will be those who will only see me as my past. That's not who I define myself as or what I define myself as. Um, I'm greater than my past. I'm stronger than my past. I'm more wiser. And the mindset of the young Ahmad is no more. So to constantly feel as though I am my past, that would be saying that I just didn't grow. I didn't grow. I didn't utilize anything along the way to learn anything, which is not the case. So um I'm just a firm believer in that. Um I don't know. I don't carry what is shame or nothing about my past because it is what it is. I can't change it. It happened. Um, and there probably are those who feel as though it should be, I guess, plastered across my forehead. I don't know, but if that's the way you see me, then you're doing yourself. You know, you're losing because you're not going to learn from me if that's the only way you see me. If I can give it an example, I was going to leave the shipyard once before the company signed me on, and I was going to go with this other company, and I went in for the interview, and the interview went great. And of course, there's the box on the application, and this was the last thing that they spoke about. And it was two guys in there interviewing me. He said, "So I want to speak about, what you were incarcerated for." So I told him, and I felt the air just get sucked out of the room. And I knew right then I was actually offered the job. But once we spoke about my past and I felt the room get cold, I knew right then that something would occur from that interview to the time when I was supposed to go through this whole screening test that would just totally um prevent me from getting the job. And sure enough, I think 2 days before I was set to go for the screening, I got a call from one of them basically saying that he couldn't get me clearance um into these government. buildings or what have you. Never mind the fact that I already have clearance to all of the bases and shipyards. So I'm not sure what more clearance he could have gotten me that I didn't already have. But that was that was motivation for me, and also understanding for me that no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you push, there are always going to be those who only see you as your past. And I was fine with it. I mean, I wasn't upset or nothing. I just worked a little harder, and I mean, look what happened. The company signed me on. But that's just one example of many examples of for people who aren't I guess headstrong, it could weigh heavy on them.
Right.
And then there may be those who just don't care what people think about them. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who it may weigh heavy on that they're only looked at because of their past. So I don't know. For me, I don't wear any shame or any guilt of it. I mean, I served my time, you know, and I mean I'm a law abiding citizen.
Yeah.
So
I think
yes,
it's
man.
interesting, right? Like your point, and while you were talking early on, I was like, obviously, you had said that you had served time for a murder, right?
You're
And
right.
so I wondered, and you answered that. I was going to ask you, I was going to be like, specific to murder, because obviously we hear murder, a life is lost, and I feel like it does have that heavier weight from people. If someone talks about drug crimes or even assault or possession of a firearm, especially in America, like that's a constitutional right to bear arms, right? So it's
Mhm.
not sort of like people don't go, oh, but when you say murder or attempted murder, there's almost this that stigma, that automatic stigma. And
Yeah.
I think, you really touched on, because there are people I know, even in the chat, that have loved ones that are going to be coming home and facing that stigma of committing the crime of murder. And I
Right.
think that is something that's very individual on its own. And I would encourage people to reach out to Ahmad. I'm just throwing you under the bus there with
It's cool.
regards to adjusting to that. Like,
Right.
and perhaps there are jobs that if your crime was drug related, they would give you the job, but because it's
Right.
murder, they're not going to. And
Right.
that's hard. I think when you keep getting that barrier and that brick wall, that's hard to come back from. And I think, before we switch over to the other guys, I think it's interesting to note as well that the only time we ever get labeled forever for one thing is crime.
Right.
Like if I go to I don't know, let's say I go to Thailand once, I'm not forever known as the girl who went to Thailand. Or
Right.
if I have my master's degree, I don't walk around and I'm known everywhere for my master's degree. But you commit
Right.
a crime and do time in prison, you will forever be a felon.
Felon. Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
And so I had this discussion on my Facebook a while back about labels and whether we, what we think about labels. And someone made a comment and I challenged them and I said, so if you were a truant in high school, how would you feel about being called a truant at 40 because of what you did in high school? If
Right.
someone said, oh, you're a truant, you go for a job at Walmart and as a manager, and they're like, oh, were you a truant when you were 13? Oh, we don't hire truants here. Like,
Right.
but why is it okay otherwise? Right.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's the key, is that label is very specific to crime.
Mhm.
I just wanted to kind of put that in there. Jeremy
Right.
and Solomon, did you want to kind of speak on stigma and shame and internal shame as well?
I kind of briefly want to touch. First, I want to say, this is a real healing moment because you may not know Christina, Sarah, you may not know, but we grew up as rival neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods been fighting each other for years for reasons we probably don't even know why. But I remember when I first met brother Ahmad and Jeremy Universal, we took a picture. And somebody seen that picture on Facebook and they contact me and say, man, you dealing with that guy from the neighborhood? He was this and that back in the day. He this and that. 30 years, something from 30 years ago. And I
Mhm.
like, yo, these are my brothers. What are you talking about?
That's
You
right.
know, these are my brothers. What are you talking about? You can't get beyond that past. We healing and growing, trying to be productive people in our community, help our community. You still stuck in the past. But like Ahmad was saying, for a while, I got some friends. I seen them. We did time together, and I seen him in the local area. He was like, he whispered, "Man, I hope you don't say nothing about us being locked up." He's ashamed of being incarcerated. And I never felt the shame. or nothing about my past. I used to have regrets about my past, but I realized that my past is what shaped and developed me to who I am today. Just like what I'm going through today is going to help shape and destined who I'm destined to become tomorrow. So I
That's
don't
right.
neglect it. I mean, I like certain aspects of it, but I am who I am because of it, and I'm thankful for it. So I look at the past. Only time that exists is the here and there. That's why it's called the present. So the past contribute to that. All we got is now. So
That's
Mm-hmm.
right. That's right.
mhm.
Yep.
Y'all have hit going deep. All right. Exactly. All right. What you have brought to my mind is that, and it's twofold. On the streets, I was known as Bernard, and I developed a name for myself and a reputation for myself, which led ultimately to me in prison and my incarceration, which put 15 felonies on my record with one incident. Because a lot of people don't understand that when you go to court, felonies and charges are compound. They're
Stack.
stacked on top of each other, where
Right.
that anything that can be contributed to that incident is put on top of you by the Commonwealth.
Yep.
So you have
Right.
relating charges. Like in my case, I had 5 gun charges and I never had a gun, right?
Mm.
But each of my felonies carried a gun with it. So then I ended up with 18 years worth of guns and I never had a gun. But because of the way the law is, there was compound there. That's left to be seen by an employer. That's left to be seen by anybody looking into my background. They see 15 felonies.
Mm-hmm.
They see charges related to homicide. They see charges related to robbery. This is what they see. But they can't look into to see that I was convicted by association of these crimes. So when they see all these crimes, that's what they see in me, and that's what they see of Bernard. When I got myself together in prison, I became and I am universal, or UV for short, and I earned a reputation for myself in that aspect of what I stood for and what I represented. When I came home, of course, with my job and my profession, my legal name came back into the forefront as Jeremy Bernard Johnson. And I have learned how to use all those aspects and labels of my life for good because everybody has nicknames, everybody has periods of their life and people that know them by a different name. Each one of those labels or names represent a period of our time, but also an aspect of ourselves
Mhm.
that led to the totality of who we are now. So I have learned to use my worst moments to help others in my best part and in who I am now. So
Mhm.
I don't have shame in that because I know that I did more than my time and gave back more than what I took when I was in society or in the community. So I had to come to that reason and to not feel ashamed to be incarcerated because I was at first, because I wasn't raised. None of us, even though we're from the same neighborhood, let's get this straight. We had positive role models, even the people that was fighting each other, even the
Yeah.
people that was from different neighborhoods. We had coaches and things that was individuals
True.
that was
Mhm.
positive role models. We chose to
Mhm.
live the path that we live.
That's
True.
right.
So let's get that straight first,
Right.
because it wasn't all bad around us. It wasn't all negative people.
Right.
So we chose to live those paths and end up in prison, and the lifestyles that we chose to live led us to prison, not the people.
Right.
So two forth, now we stand as those individuals that can give back in the same manner that was given to us, but we didn't take heed of it. So that's what I look at like, okay, I came twofold and in a complete cipher. Now I'm the individual that I looked up to in those coaches. And I have a direct responsibility to use my worst times for somebody's best life
That's right.
because now I can use my lived experience to change the narrative of somebody because they haven't lived it yet. So I can give them my worst to prevent them, whether they're coming home from prison or they're on their way to prison. I can intercept that on either end because I have that ability because of my incarceration.
That's right.
So I really don't have shame in it, but I understand the stigma that comes with it because I had to explain myself. I had to explain myself to my current employer of why I had 15 felonies, and I thought that I could be employed by him. And when he's looking at these 15 felonies, he's like, "Oh, we gotta talk because you sitting in front of me, but I'm looking at your record and your past, and you have all this. What did you do? You know?" And that's what
Right.
he's asking me, like, "What did you do? You have this long list of things, and how you out here?"
Yeah.
But when I explained to him what felony murder was and how I was convicted by association because they felt that I was a drug dealer and a drug deal gone bad, and without me, then the circumstances would not have happened.
Mm.
So that's something that everybody don't give you a chance to do,
To explain. Yep.
to
Right.
explain. They're just looking at what they see and saying, "Oh no, you're not what we're looking for,"
Right.
or they just say, "We'll give you a call if you apply, or if you have a second interview, you'll receive a call or a text for your second interview," and they close that chapter because they're judging you and labeling you by what they see and not what they know,
Right.
and that is an aspect of shame and stigma that we will always have to live with because it never goes anywhere unless you put in for absolute pardon to get it expunged. But that's a whole process in itself. Like you're going through a whole nother judicial process just to try to get something moved off your record just because you don't want people to judge you by it. So that's something that we will always have to go through and endure. But I have learned to use it as a positive. I have learned to use my whole life experience and process. Every person that individuals know me as, I still tell them it's still me.
Hmm.
Well, you don't go by this no more. You ain't burn out no more. No, that's always me. That's me. But I'm not behaving in
Right.
that manner that
And then
Bernard
that's right.
behaved in
There you
because
go.
I choose to change my behavior and unlearn those behaviors and be universal or Jeremy Johnson when you see me and give you those positive aspects of myself, but don't deny or be shameful of what led me to where I'm at now. And that's a process that has to be a conversation. It can only come when somebody's coming home from an individual that is of like minds that have been there, done that. Because then you have a peer or a person of equal standard that conversation can be had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting because, and I mean, Sarah, you spoke on it, the stigma of the money thing with people being inside and coming home. When I tell you the amount of times I have to defend what I do for work and why I help people in prison.
Yep.
Oh my word. And I'm just like, the ignorance, right?
Right.
What do you do for work? Well, I'm doing my master's and I work in prison advocacy. Why do you help them?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how about you have a damn seat and I'll tell you exactly why. And I
That's right.
school them, right? So I think I've got a little bit like of a leg up in terms of me coming and being like, listen, you're going to sit down, you're going to listen right now. So, um, but I think it's just that whole environment. Like, it's not even, obviously you get one set of stigma because you've done the time, and I could hear it in you. Like, I've got 15 felonies. How are you sitting in front of me right now? Like, you should still be in prison. Like, you are a bad dude. That's the assumption.
Yeah.
Like, you are, like, I'm scared of you, right? And I remember having video visits at Warren's Ridge, and I would show people pictures, and they'd be like, "Why is he in a cage? Is he dangerous? Is he going to hurt somebody?" And then also the stigma that I receive, and people are like, "Well, why aren't you doing like a job that matters?" I'm like, "Can you explain to me why you think that this doesn't?" And so I think it's the whole industry and the whole system is there's so much negativity and stigma attached to it and shame. And it's up to us to educate people. If you get the opportunity, even if someone doesn't want to listen, like, you know, um, I mean, I've done it. Like, I've forced people, right? Like, even if they don't want to listen, like, I'm going to start. So if you don't want to listen, walk away because I'm going to ear bash you. I think sometimes we just have to take those opportunities if someone questions us just to start educating, because I think until we start to really have those hard conversations, people's opinions aren't going to change, and some people's opinions don't change. But I've seen it happen where you put a question back on someone that they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know why I think that way. Or and they have no good reason. And if they've walked away and they've had a change of heart, sure. If they haven't, they haven't. But at least we try, and that's the only way we get through to it. And Jeremy, to your boss's credit, he gave you the opportunity to speak about that. But you're right. A lot of people, and I see it with helping guys obtain a point employment. When you click on that, like, because it's not just you to go in and hand your resume in anymore, you do those online applications, and on that online application you're already clicking the criminal history, and
Hmm.
they don't even have to give you a reason.
Hmm.
You just
Yep.
don't get a call, so you're not even getting an interview, you're not even getting a sit down,
Yep.
right? And so it's barrier upon barrier before you've even stepped out the door. And so I think, hopefully more people are coming around to understanding the differences that we bring, but there's still very much a lot of stigma and shame, I think, put on by the community. Sarah, are you happy to combine these last two ones? Because this is a bit of a free for all,
Mm,
that we kind of just want to open up to both of you. So are you
yeah.
happy for me to combine both of these?
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so what if, so this is going to be in regards to the advice to the recently released or those expecting someone home from incarceration. So let's speak directly to folks who are newly home or coming home soon and their loved ones. What do you wish someone had told you, or what do you wish your loved ones knew?
And then we'll also cover what success looks like now for all of you, and kind of, end off the night. So if you can cover what you wish you knew and what success looks like for you now going forward, and sort of what you're doing, the positive things that you've already covered it sort of like in the space that we've spoken about, which is why I wanted to combine the two. But there's no sort of, we're not throwing to anyone first. It's just whoever wants to share, go ahead and share. And please feel free.
Uh, I wish I wish someone had told me about the sleepless nights when I should have been sleeping comfortably, but I couldn't sleep because it was too quiet. Um, I wish someone had told me how to cope in relationship. Um, I wish, oh man, it's so much that I wish someone had told me. Um, Returning from prison, um, just how difficult things would be, but that also it would be okay. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay to ask advice. It's okay to let someone help you. Um, Man, I can. That's a whole nother conversation. But um, somebody else can go. Yeah.
I kind of he you kind of summed everything up. I wanted to say because I feel like what I wish somebody would have told me, or it's basically like it's not gonna, because when you're in prison, you visualize coming home, man, I'm gonna have this car, man, have this. You visualize that, but you don't visualize the challenges. Like Brother Universe was saying, the door slammed shut on you. Nobody really prepares you for that. We have this great image because we sitting there, confined and thinking freedom, freedom, but you don't know that job they turn you down, the bills. I have family that I know have told me, say, "Man, I do better in prison. In prison, I'm somebody. But when you get here, in prison, everything given to you. You don't have to worry about food, stuff like that. But out here, it's a struggle. You got to go. You got to earn your bread. Got to work. It's responsibility and accountability. And when you have been having somebody to provide all your needs for the last 20 or 30 years, sometimes it's hard to adapt. So I think we come out here think it's gonna be easy road. So I wish that somebody would tell that. Well, I guess I can't say I wish, because experience is the best teacher. But they have the awareness that it's not gonna be easy. I think recidivism is so high because soon as the challenge comes, people go back to what they know, whether that be selling drugs or criminal behavior, because it's more easy to do that than to stick out the challenges. So that's one thing I wish that people have the awareness that, and to the family loved ones, have patience on your family. You can't, they come out, you expect them to have a job in a day. Everybody's circumstances is different. A lot of us walking around with mental health issues undiagnosed. It's a stigma between mental health. So, you got to look at all aspects of that and just be that support they need. Now, what success look like for me is I consider myself as being a success. Success is being able to wake up in the morning loving who I am, being able to give somebody else, serve somebody in a different manner, just enjoying life. At one point we live in a life. People look at it as you selling drugs or whatever you was doing. You looking nice, you got nice clothes, but was you happy? Was you at peace? So success for me looks at having peace now. I don't have no regrets, no worries, peace. That's a success for me. So
There you
to
go.
continue living that, so
There you go.
simplicity, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I would say the main thing that comes across when we're talking is that I think individuals need to understand that what they think is going to be simple as far as family orientation and togetherness is complicated. When we look at family, we have this ideal of what family is, and then if it's not that, we say it's dysfunctional. But family is family, and people are people. Um, I would give the advice of not coming out, taking things on the face value, and boxing them in, because we do dream and fantasize about
Mhm.
how people should be there for us, how life should look,
Right.
and it becomes a fairy tale when you come out here and it's a reality.
Mhm.
Bills are a reality. We say, oh, I want to get my own place. I want to get my own car. We don't look at the insurance that has to be paid on the car,
Right.
how gas has to be put in the car.
Yeah.
All these things are realities. And all these things are things that we have to do, and that's governance. Bills don't go away. But we don't understand that because we have been incarcerated for so long. All we see is the end result. So we
Mhm.
don't see the everyday wear and tear that comes to gain the end result. So coming out, a lot of people have to be educated all over again on the stability of life and knowing, okay, you got to take your time because you're jumping into all these responsibilities, but you don't know that it comes with more responsibility of maintaining what you're trying to gain.
Right.
So that wears us down, and the wear and tear of that, where we come out and people are there for us in the first month to 3 months. And like you say, yeah, they're giving us money, but we have to understand that that's just because we just got home. We can't
Mhm.
look at that like people are responsible to continue to give us money that they don't have and time that they don't have. It's at the point where that we got to kick it in gear and
Mhm.
understand that it doesn't mean that they're not genuine, that they don't love us, and that they're just shunning us or gave us money because they feel guilty because they wasn't there for us during our incarceration. No, it's life. And people have to live on, and they have responsibilities, and we are going to have to be responsible in that sense. That talk I didn't have, and most people don't have coming home. So a lot of times when we get to going and what we feel is glamorous, or what we feel that we're fitting the dream or the fantasy that we wanted to achieve when we came home, when it kicks in on the other side of, all right, if you don't pay your property tax, they're coming to get that. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. If you don't pay your light bill and you're late an hour on your light bill, your lights get cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't pay your water bill, and if you can't wash, another thing, just simple things, just washing clothes and how that runs the water bill up, or how to wash clothes, all those things. Those are conversations that I didn't have because I thought I just knew the simple things, but not understanding, okay, I jumped and made a leap, but these are the responsibilities that came with that leap and that jump that I did. But on the other hand, I was responsible enough to say, okay, if I made this decision and I got a place early and I got a car early, even though these bills got me check to check, I'm going to go check to check until I see
Mhm.
daylight. Everybody's not like that.
That's right.
Mhm.
So when
Right.
they come home, they need that education that, okay, if you jump out there and you achieve these things, it comes with more. Just because
That's
you
right.
got an apartment, just because you got a car, don't mean that you're finished. You still
Mhm.
have payments, and you still have responsibilities of the upkeeping and the maintenance
Yep.
of this vehicle, or of this apartment, or of this lifestyle. A lot of us want to buy clothes before we save money. Money
Mhm.
management skills, things of
Mhm.
this nature we need
Mhm.
when we're coming home. And this is what I would say to an individual coming home: to take your time and learning these things before you jump out there,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
that reflects me. Even though I was responsible with my leap and my jump, everybody's not.
That's right.
And what
Mhm.
success looks like to me is to be home. I have to remind myself every time I have a challenge or to feel pressure, I'm not even supposed to be here.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
But
was
you are,
sentenced
bruh.
yeah,
You
but
here,
listen to what
bruh.
I'm saying though, right? Listen to what I'm saying. I was sentenced to 61 years and I was supposed to serve 51 years of that 61. I would have been 76 years old when I came home, but I didn't accept that. So I can't complain with anything that comes my way that is a difficulty or obstacle because this is a blessing in itself for me to have the opportunity to face this challenge, for me to have the opportunity to face this pressure, and for me to be victorious over anything that comes to me. That's an opportunity and a blessing in itself for me to be out here. So success to me is being out here and having a chance to help myself and others. That's what success
Mhm.
looks like to me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not everyone's that lucky either, right? Like
Exactly.
there's
There's
some
people
people
still
that,
That's
in there.
right.
yeah, there's people that may never come home. I think the
True.
financial thing, and Ahmad, we can go back to you if you have stuff to add after. But the financial thing that you were speaking on, I know that, like we're working in some pre-entry spaces right now, and I've got a couple of guys that I'm helping with resources come home. And, part of what we ask is, have you taken literacy, like financial literacy and management courses? Because we do have that available. And I had a very in-depth conversation with a good friend a couple of weeks ago, and he took a risk inside and lost a considerable amount of money, right? It was $1,000. And um, he had other priorities that he wanted to do. Like he wanted to speak with a lawyer about possibly getting back into court, and that consultation with that lawyer was going to cost $250. So the conversation that we had from that was that, did you think about that risk and that it could cost you $1,000? No, I didn't think about that. Okay, so where does that put your goals with what you wanted to do? Well, I'll just wait until that money comes again. Okay, so what happens when that's a bill
Mhm.
and the kids are going to go without electric because you didn't think about what the risk could cost you? Because that's the reality out here. You've got a little bit of a buffer in there because nothing's got a timeline. He can go and speak to that lawyer whenever. Right? It doesn't matter if it's now, it doesn't matter if it's 6 months. Like he was saying, I've just got to make the money back and pay the $250. But when you're out here and you're still taking those risks and not thinking about it, and it could be something like a pair of shoes, spending $300 on a pair of shoes instead of putting it towards rent,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
and you're not having those significant thought processes about what could happen and the consequences, that then leads down a very nasty path. Because if you're all of a sudden short $300 for rent and you're going to risk being evicted and your family can't give you the money, what are you going to go do? Right? you
That's
you you know you might
Mhm.
have a friend, and he might say, well, bro, I can give you some coke, just go sell it. It'd be easy,
Mhm.
quick $500 and lose your life.
Mhm.
And that's the reality. Those little things, like those little, like literacy and financial awareness, if we can teach that and we can be open to that, it stops a whole barrel of whirlwind consequences that come after that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Ahmad, did you want to finish off on what you were saying, or were you
Oh
done?
yeah, yeah, yeah. The same way what UV said. I think all of us, for the most part, feel the same way. In his case, is it's magnified because he fought. Not that we all didn't fight, but just being home is that's what success looked like, and
Mhm.
given an opportunity every day to do different tomorrow what I couldn't do today. You know what I'm saying? That's a
Mhm.
success. That's success in itself. To be able to do it at your own pace and without any roadblocks. The
Right.
main roadblock being incarceration. So and also I wanted to add this too. With the company that I work for now, BMF, Bay Metal and Fabrication, one of the owners, Sean Matthews, um, he was like one of the motivating factors in um my signing on with them because he said, man, I asked him, we had a sit down one time and we spoke about everything and he said, um I asked him, I said, so my charge that wouldn't, you know, the deter you from hiring me? He said, no. He said, I don't care nothing about that. He said, I see your work, I see your work ethic, and that's all I care about. And he watched me for the last year, and I got so many different nominations because of him. And it's people like that who, I don't know if they're rare or not, but it's people like that who push you and motivate you in ways that just it makes you say, okay, there are people who you know who look at you for who you are and not for what you've done. And that was one thing right there of many things, but that's one thing right there that just made me believe that there are genuine people who want to help. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that too is a part of what I feel is success. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary gain. It's just, man, every day that I wake up, I thank God, and I go on about my day, and you know
That's right.
so yeah, and
That's great.
and I try to put that same positive energy out there, whether it's, you see somebody and speak, or even through social media when I just put up a post just saying, hey man, I hope your day is going great. You know what I'm saying? So that's success right there, man. And everything else that comes from it or whatever is all extra. But just to be able to get up and do as I please,
That's
um,
good.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Sarah, did you want to wrap up?
Yes. So I just wanted to tell everyone who tuned in, thank you. We hope you heard something tonight that gave you permission to heal.
And obviously, thank you to Solomon, Ahmad, and Jeremy. You showed up with
Yeah.
honesty and heart, and we are so,
Yeah.
so grateful for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you. Thank
Yes.
you. And thank you for the work that y'all do and for the message that y'all delivered. And I know for the guys who contact me for information,
Mm,
I'm sure you all are open to you
most
know,
definitely.
help as best as you all can. So I definitely will refer them to you all.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Always happy to help. And if we can't, we will find someone who does.
For
That's right.
sure.
Absolutely.
Before we move on, Sarah, I've got a message here from Marky, and I don't know if any of you can answer this. Do employers get tax incentives for hiring formerly incarcerated individuals?
It is my understanding. I know they was, and it's a process that you can actually make yourself horrible by getting a process called getting bonded. But I
I was
did,
just about to speak on that.
yeah,
I am federally bonded. I have the bonding certificate and everything, and I presented that to that particular employer about that story I told you. They just totally looked past it. They didn't want to hear nothing about it. Once they
Mhm.
heard that I was convicted of murder, they didn't want to hear anything about federal bonding and none of that. And it was discouraging. But what could I do?
yeah.
Mm,
Right.
mm.
Right.
Do any of you know how like someone would go about getting bonded?
Um, I have the information. I don't
Mm,
I don't know. I got it through reentry upon my
okay.
release.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, exactly what you can do or who do you go through, I honestly
Mm,
don't know, but it was just a part of the reentry where we
mm,
had to fill out some paperwork and it came to us. So
mm,
yeah.
And like he said, I think that's a resource you go to. Like I know we had this like Goodwill centers have these reentry programs, and
mhm.
they will explain the process of how to do it. They have a whole bunch of coordinators that assist you with that. But generally, it's the reentry programs. I know Goodwill has them a lot down here. So
Okay.
the
Perfect.
workforce, yeah.
Excellent. Good information. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Um,
could
oh, go ahead.
you could just, and I just did it. You could just Google federal bonding program, and the same
Okay.
program that they're speaking of that they offer to us doing re-entry a pop up, and it has a pretty lengthy breakdown of and step by step resourcing. So it's
Okay,
easy to find. You could just type it in and they'll pop
Okay.
up.
perfect.
And
Oh,
Excellent.
cool.
yeah. Thank you for
Thank you.
Googling that.
Yes.
We all know that Ahmad wasn't going to Google it. Do you know what Google is, Ahmad?
I do. I do. Hey, look, as much as hey, listen, I told you, as much as I'm on social media, I'm still not as computer savvy as I should be. So I
You're like, I'm
apologize.
a content creator, but that's all I can do.
That's all I do.
All good. All good. So next week we are going to go live again at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Karen Morrison, and we're digging into parole in Virginia, the history, the present, and the fight for change.
Mm,
Perfect. So be
that's
here,
dope.
bring your people, and we will see you then. Have a lovely evening.
All
Good night,
right.
everybody.
Peace.
Bye,
Peace.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.